All praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High. This is a video. Um, this is just anyone who looking to get edified on the Feast of Dedication, on what majority of the world calls Hanukkah. I pray that the planting of these seeds um, not only gets watered, but the Most High see fits for whoever watches it, that He will see fit to give it the increase. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Judges 5 and 11. Judges 5 and 11. It says, "They that are delivered from the noise of archers and the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates." So, we all can agree that we should strive to be more Christ-like. And in Judges 5 and 11 says, "There shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel." So we need to date back at, you know, how did Christ walk? What did he keep? What did he do? We all know that Christ was blameless, no sin, you know. So we need to rehearse the righteous acts and strive to be more Christ-like. So now that we got that, we can go to Second Maccabees 1 and 18. Let's get it started. It's in the Apocrypha. Second Maccabees chapter 1 and 18. "Therefore, whereas we are now proposed to keep the purification of the temple upon the 25th day of the month Cashlu, we thought it necessary to certify you thereof, that ye also might keep it, as the feast of the tabernacles," which is a whole nother holy day, "and of the fire which was given us when Nehemiah offered sacrifice, after that he had builded the temple and the altar." Right? So it says, "We propose to keep the purification of the temple on the 25th day of the month Cashlu, and we find it necessary to certify you thereof to also keep it." Right? This is a holy day. All right. This is a holy day. This is not your typical uh worldly day, and what the world calls holidays. This is not a pagan day. Um, this actually has a meaning. No, this is biblical, and they took these books out for obvious reasons, and these are actually commandments for us to keep. As you can see within the scripture, it also mentions to keep the Feast of the Tabernacle. That's a whole nother story. We're focusing on the Feast of Dedication, right? We already went over Judges 5 and 11 to, rehearse the righteous acts as which Christ did. We should rehearse the righteous acts in what Christ did. And now we got Second Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 18 talking about, what day do we keep the Feast of Dedication, right? I'm also start with First Maccabees chapter 4 and 52. So we're rehearsing the righteous acts, right? It's just one of the introductions to Feast of Dedication. Now we're going to go to First Maccabees chapter 4:52. Right? This would be verse 52 through 58, right? I should have started with this one. This is going to give more of a direct description of what, the Feast of Dedication is. "Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Cashlu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning, and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings, which they had made. Look, at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals." Right? Here, a lot of our people, we got that flavor in us. You know, in the church, the jazz. We got the Jazz Hall of Fame. You know, you in Tulsa, Oklahoma, man. You got you just got we just full of all flavor, man. Our choirs, man. We got that soul, man. We got the soul food. We got the soul singing. You know, we got the instruments, man. We got that flavor in us. This is us right here. Even in that was dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals, right? Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrifice to sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. So so far we got the feast of dedication, right? In verse 52, starting on the 25th day of the ninth month, and which back then was called Cashlu, right? Now this is in the winter. This particular holy day is in the winter. You know, and we if you look it up, you can look up that the beginning of winter actually officially starts December 22nd. You know, so you can easily go off of that as that starting your ninth month. You know, that's a whole nother story. A lot of people have a lot of different times when it comes to feast of dedication. You may have different camps and things of that nature, but particularly feast of dedication starts when it starts to get cold. And you also go to verse 56. You know, they kept it for 8 days. So from the 25th of the ninth month, whatever ninth month you going by, to 8 days after that, going into the 10th month. And with gladness and sacrifice of deliverance and praise. Now, verse 57 sounds like us. It sounded like me a few years ago, right? They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them, right? So they're doing this with gladness. They're decorating, when we come to the pagan days, when we come to Christmas, when we deck in the halls, when we can't wait for the Christmas spirit, when we all jolly old Santa Claus, right? Those are pagan days. This is Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 1 through 5. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammer, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be borne, means carried. Born means to be carried, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. That was Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1 through 5. Jeremiah, in which he was a prophet. He spoke to the children of Israel as in warnings. That was during the Babylonian captivity. As you can see, that was the third captivity after Egyptian captivity and the Assyrian captivity. So through all these captivities that you see, we've grown accustomed to the heathens. A lot of things that has an origin of, or the birth of, has came from the heathens to the practices and the traditions of man, of the things that we do today, which are pagan. And if you look up the definition of pagan, it is atheist, right? Pagan is atheist, which is contrary to Christ, right? So if you're a Christian and if you celebrating these holidays and you just doing it for the hell of it, you have to know the origins of these things. And then you cannot say through my heart, God knows my heart, right? Let me get that scripture real quick. Those are rulership of us being conquered by our enemies, our biblical enemies.
As you can see, definition of pagan. You can see the first one. It says a person holds religious beliefs other than those of the main world religions. Uh, but that's not particularly correct. It says of the main world religions. Religions is man-made within itself. But you can see the similar definitions of pagan is heathen, atheist, um, a skeptic, unworldly, irreligious. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Let me see.
Irreligious.
Yeah, irreligious. Infidel.
Infidel.
Adhering to a religion than one's own. Um, Atheistic. Disbelieving or lacking belief in the existence of Yahweh. So people be of high faith of um, followers of Christ, what the world calls Christ, Yahweh Shah, but keep pagan days, which are similar definitions of heathen, irreligious, and atheistic.
If it's our biblical enemies, if it's our Salaki, if it's our biblical enemies, it's our enemies. There's no such thing as, oh, that's just my biblical enemies. I mean, I'm cool with them though. That's folly, man. They're celebrating the conquering of genocide, of rape, of murders, and you decking the halls on that particular appointed day. But we have right here, we have our own days. You're reading as we speak. We just went over Judges 5 and 11, rehearsing the righteous acts of the Lord. And you're going to later see that Christ kept the Feast of Dedication, in which the world calls Hanukkah. All right. So they deck also the forefront. They deck the halls. We got our Christmas tree. We got, our Christmas lights. We got the reindeer. We got the chocolate cookies. We got we got the milk. We got the chimney. We all in the spirit over something that we picked up since we've been brought over to this land. Our history is way before slavery. Our history is way before slavery. This is our history. It's always been our history. But if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. As I continue, verse 57. They decked also the forefront in the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hanging doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Cashlu, with mirth and gladness. At that time also they builded up the Mount Sion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it and fortify Bethsura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. So this is us building the second temple, right? In verse 60, it says, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. So this is the rebuild of the holy temple, right? This is a celebration of it. This is something to celebrate about. A lot of the times, these holy days that was meant for us to keep, it was a lot of the times it was us, conquering our enemies. Us departing from captivity. If you kept Passover, the departure out of Egypt, out of captivity. If you read it more about, the Passover, it says, therefore no stranger should eat thereof. I mean, if you're not an Israelite, by speed and through the spirit of these scriptures, you cannot eat of that. You should not be congregating with no Egyptian. For an example, why would you eat unleavened? Why would you eat the meals of the Passover? The lamb, the unleavened bread, Why would you take a part in that with a stranger? It makes no sense. That's just like, if you keep the feast of dedication in verse 60, it says, at that time also they builded up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. Imagine you congregating with a Gentile. Imagine you congregating with the heathen. Imagine you congregating on this particular holy day set out for us, the set apart Jews, according to scriptures, according to them being black in the ground in Jeremiah 14:2. Imagine you doing this with your enemies. That's folly. That's the total opposite. That's contrary due to the fact of you keeping it. You celebrating with your enemies. This is I'm gonna be going to Sirach 12:10, talking about our enemies and why we should not trust the outhouse enemies, especially during these perilous, difficult times as well in these last days, right? Because this is a very, very spoiled land. This is a very spoiled nation. They are very, very spoiled, and throughout time, we have been getting more and more freedom. The more freedom we get, the more at their despise that they get. I will start with, I'm going to go ahead and start with verse 8. A friend cannot be known in prosperity, and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity, right? It means at a misfortune, like at a difficult time, right? For like difficult times for the so-called white man, January 6th, that Capitol riot, they didn't like those particular things. They went there and they showed their true colors, right? They shed their skin that day. You have particular people that are judges, your so-called friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, your doctors. You had a hierarchy of well-fortunate people of America that's of the so-called white man, going haywire at that Capitol, screaming USA, USA. They are spoiled. So it says a friend cannot be known in prosperity and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. As I continue, verse 9, in the prosperity of a man, enemies will be grieved, but in his adversity, even a friend will depart, right? So anytime we get something going, they grieve. They didn't like Black Wall Street. All the way from the beginning, they did not like Black Wall Street. They were just waiting for an excuse to do a particular thing, right? Verse 10, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust has not been altogether wiped away. Right? I'm also get that in First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 29. I believe it was verse 29. So like, bear with me. It was verse 29. Like, I believe it was Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees, verse 2. This is the example I was going to give, in 1st Maccabees chapter 1. Right, this is Antiochus. This was our enemy back then during our captivity. It says in verse 20, I'm going to start at verse 20. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel in Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the shewbread and the pouring vessels and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments.
that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly, right? So when they knocked down Black Wall Street, when they knocked us down, when they conquered us, they always say something of God bless America. That's their term that they use. God bless America, God bless America, God bless America. When they conquered the natives, God bless America. When they had over 10 million, when they had millions of slaves coming over here, God bless America, right? So when when he had this great massacre and spoken very proudly, he was saying God bless America, not literally speaking, but in this term as what we use today in the captivity that we are in today. That's what they use. Verse 25. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned. The virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. All right. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel, right? So only 2 full years after all that destruction he did, our people, that sounds like our people. We easily convinced, when Joe Biden considered to make a Juneteenth or whatever a holiday, we were so happy. When Abraham said he so-called freed the slaves, we were so happy. You're still a slave if you still taking out your natural habitat. You're still a slave if you still call yourself an African American. You still a slave if you fall into the mark of the beast of Christianity. You still a slave if you fall into the fact that the Most High died for everybody. Salakia, that his only begotten son died for everybody. But as you said, he only came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So this sounds just like our people right here. As I go back to the Feast of Dedication, man. But I'm gonna continue in 2 Maccabees 2:8. Gonna get a little deep into this, man. 2 Maccabees 2 and verse 8. Then shall the Lord show them these things, and the glory of the Lord shall appear, and the cloud also, as it was showed under Moses, and as when Solomon desired that the place might be honorably sanctified. Salakia. It was also declared that he, being wise, offered the sacrifice of dedication and of the finishing of the temple. And as when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the sacrifices. Even so prayed Solomon also, and the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offerings. And Moses said, because the sin offering was not to be eaten, it was consumed. So Solomon kept those 8 days based upon, the Feast of the Tabernacle. Salakia, according to the Feast of Dedication. Let me get another account on 2 Maccabees 2 and verse 19. 2 Maccabees verse 2. Chapter 2, verse 19. Now was concerning Judas Maccabees and his brethren, and the purification of the great temple, and the dedication of the altar, and the wars against Antiochus, Epiphanes, and Eupator, his son, and the manifest signs that came from heaven unto those that behaved themselves manfully to their honor for Judaism, so that being but a few, they overcame the whole country and chased barbarous multitudes, and recovered again the temple renowned all the world over, and freed the city and held the Jews which were going down, the Lord being gracious unto them with all favor. All these things, I say, being declared by Jason of Syrian in 5 books.
we will essay to abridge in one volume. So again, this is another account of, what we did with the Feast of Dedication. We recovered the temple, renounced all the world over, and freed the city and upheld the laws which were going down, the Lord being gracious and tender with all favor. All right, so this is the conquering once again back into the rebuild of the second temple. All right, this is the dedication of the altar. It's the whole point of this thing. Now we're going to get out of the Apocrypha and show an account in John 10 and 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter, right? And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch, right? So Jesus kept the feast of dedication, which is in the winter, right? Back then it was called the month of Cashleu, on the 25th day to the 8th day following that day with mirth and gladness. I'm gonna also go in John 14. John 14 in chapter 12. John 14 in verse 12 says, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. And whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. If ye love me, keep my commandments. So a lot of us say that we love the Most High. A lot of us, we cry, we pray, we have all this faith, but we don't have the works for it. Where are the works at? All right, this is James chapter 2, verse 20 through 23. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered Isaac his son upon the altar? Seest thou how faith wrought with his works, and by works was faith made perfect? And the scripture was fulfilled with which saith, Abraham believeth Yahweh, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of Yahweh. So we gotta look and see what is the fruit of our labors. What are the works that we doing that is righteous? Not just do faith and then doing the wicked origins of paganism and then feeling like that's our works. We have our own set apart days, which is called holy days and not holidays. And with that, I would like to go to back to the Apocrypha and 1st and 2nd Maccabees. And this is Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9 through 10. It says, The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. So it's not according to what you feel like what you're doing is right, what you feel like, this pagan day, the Most High knows my heart. The Most High says, it says in accordance to the fruit of his doings, right? You can't only have faith and then be wicked at the same time. You have to have faith and works. They have to correspond. The works is in keeping the commandments. The works is being followers of Christ, true followers of Christ. This is not even the tip of the iceberg. Go back to Judges 5 and 11. I'm going to read that again. This is how we started off. They that are delivered from the noise of archers and the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Right? So that's the whole point, man. We want to rehearse the righteous acts of the Most High, right? We want to satisfy the Most High. We want to love him by keeping his commandments and fearing him more. The more you love him, the more you fear him. The more you fear him, the more you love him. Go back to 2nd Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 23. 2nd Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 23. We're going to go right back to the Apocrypha. And the priest made a prayer whilst the sacrifice was consuming. I say, both the priest and all the rest, Jonathan beginning, and the rest answering thereunto as Nehemiah did. And the prayer was after this manner: O Lord, Lord God, creator of all things, who are fearful and strong, and righteous and merciful, and the only and gracious King, the only giver of all things, the only just, almighty, and everlasting, thou that deliverest Israel from all trouble, and didst choose the fathers and sanctify them. Right? Receive the sacrifice for thy whole people Israel, and preserve thy own portion and sanctify it. Gather those together that are scattered from us. Deliver them that serve among the heathen. Look upon them that are despised and abhorred, which means hated, and let the heathen know that they art our God. Punish them that oppress us, right? We don't hear that very often, right? We're still getting oppressed to this day. Let me get that in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. I'm getting the spirit. Let me go ahead and highlight that one. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Right? I'm going to jump down to verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, which our people is the only one that ever went through that in history, through cargo slave ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold into your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Right?
This is Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1 through 3. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy Yahweh had driven thee, and shalt return unto the Lord thy Yahweh, and shalt obey his voice, according to all that command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul. That then the Lord thy Yahweh will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy Yahweh hath scattered thee.
This is Ezekiel 36, verse 19. It says, And I scattered thee among the heathen, and they were dispersed through the countries according to their way and according to their doings. I had judged them. Let me go back to 2 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 23. Right? I'm going to jump down to, right, let's go back to it. Gather those together that are scattered amongst us, scattered from us. Deliver them that serve among the heathen. Look upon them that are despised and hated, and let the heathen know that thou art our God. Right? Punish them that oppress us, and with pride do us wrong. Plant thy people again in thy holy place, as Moses hath spoken. Right? Swing low, sweet charity. Let me go to Jeremiah 43 and 11. Let's go to a prophet. Let's go to Jeremiah the prophet. Let's rehearse those righteous acts, man. And when he cometh, he shall smite the land of Egypt. Right? This is after the captivity of the land of Egypt. Right? We just read in Deuteronomy 64 in verse 68. Salakia. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64, that he will bring us again into Egypt with ships. So this is the prophet Jeremiah prophesying. It says, And when he cometh, he shall smite the land of Egypt, and deliver such as are for death to death, and such as are for captivity to captivity, and such as are for the sword to the sword. Right? That sounds like an eye for me. That sounds like an eye for that. That sounds fair enough for me. That's what I should be rejoicing about. That's what I should be patient about and staying diligent and rehearsing the righteous acts for. That's me getting my house together right there. All right. But also get that in Revelations 13 and 10. This is what we should be looking for. This is how we get our house in order. We should be looking at the reproach of the heathen. We should be looking at what they did to us to recompense upon their heads tenfold. We should be looking to be rehearsing the righteous acts of the Lord in Genesis 5 and 11. Keeping these holidays, keeping the statutes and commandments, loving the Most High, loving our neighbor, loving ourselves, examining ourselves, giving alms, praying for each other, fasting with each other. That's what we should be looking for, man. As a people, because we the ones at the bottom, man. Sorry for getting off course just in the spirit a little bit. But this is Revelations 13 and 10. It says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So it says here is the patience and the faith of the saints, right? So let's question ourselves, man. Is a saint, if you a saint, man, are you really, if you claim yourself to be a saint, are you really being patient for that lead into captivity, go into captivity? Are you really thinking about that? Are you really thinking that, he that killed with a sword must be killed with a sword? Are you waiting for the recompense of what people did unrighteously to our foremothers and our forefathers have done? Or are you growing accustomed to this place? Are you loving everybody that you pass by? Because God is not all about love. God most definitely hates. And God is going to recompense war on people who done his chosen people wrong. And it will come a day, and it's here today. It is here today. Let me get that in Revelations 1 and 20. Right? Back to the Feast of Dedication. A lot of times you had menorahs, right? 7 candlesticks. This is Revelation 1 and verse 20. The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are 7 churches. All right, I'm going to get another count in Revelation 4 and 5. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of the Most High. Right? So right here, like I said earlier, Feast of Dedication, what majority of people call Hanukkah, you don't see 7 candlesticks, man. Now this is folly. This is a direct account of, your mama telling you to clean the dishes, but you rather soak them and leave them overnight and forget about them. This is not being obedient to the Most High whatsoever. He says 7. He didn't say 8. He didn't say 9. He didn't say 2. He says 7. It says right here, Hanukkah, also known as the Festival of Lights, is a Jewish, once again, festival commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and subsequent rededication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century, right? So you hear that it says against the Seleucid Empire. During the Seleucid Empire, that was during the Hellenization of the Greeks, right? In which, on account, you can read about Apostle Paul when he said, there's neither Jew or Greeks. He was talking about Hellenized Jews. Let me get that real quick. The Seleucid Empire was a Greek state in Western Asia during the Hellenistic period, right? I'm not 100% sure if these times is right. That existed from, 312 BC to 63 BC. We do know it was before Christ, of course. The Seleucid Empire was founded by Seleucus the first, Nicator, following the division of a Macedonian empire that existed previously, which had been founded by Alexander the Great. All right. So back to the scriptures. Once again, this is during the Hellenization period. And, you can buy your manure on Amazon, online, light your 7 candlesticks in, you know, feast, have your little wine, drink too much, congregate, love each other, and, go all out for this thing. Deck the halls, reread the scriptures, you know, and do it righteously and celebrate an appointed day of what Christ kept. Because if we follow in Judges 5 and 11, and we just and we going by John 14 and 12 through 15, and if we love him and we keeping our commandments, it's not going to be a problem for us. Because we went all out for pagan days. We went all out for those atheist days, man. That was created by homophobic. I'm gonna say that too, because now people are celebrating LGBTQ months, man. Not only a day, but a month full of wickedness. It's already everywhere in television shows and cocoa melon in your coffee. It don't matter what it's in, man. They find a way to put some most faggotry. My apologies. They try to put some most faggotry stuff inside your drink so you can drink it and you can sip and you can be drunk, man. And you could be exposed and you could have your fly open. You could be naked, right? When you naked, you're exposed. You're not become naked of this world whatsoever, man. It's like it got in the spirit, but once again, this is, 7 candlesticks is, the direct signification of the Feast of Dedication. You can get you a menorah and things of that nature. And I like to end this with 1 Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 9. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation had not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she has become a bondslave. So this she is talking about Jerusalem. This she is talking about the people. Right? And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. So who didn't play a part in, I know if somebody got jumped, or I give you a better example. If when George Floyd, when the person who killed him, things of that nature, when there was riots and things of that nature, you had a designer store that thing was broken into. We like a broken in designer store, man, full of expensive clothing. You have a t-shirt with a hole in it and a bleach stain worth $5,000. People fighting over it. People fighting over $1,000 shoes and Nikes just because the white man glorified it to be that expensive. That's how we was loved. He said, what nation had not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? What group of people didn't, leave that designer store without grabbing something? You know what I'm saying? And all her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she has become a bond slave, man. So our infants were slain in the streets, man. Our women was raped. Our woman was killed. Our young men was killed. Right? This is something that we should celebrate. This is something that we should look forward to in these last times. Notice all these punishments and all these players, they all are the Most High. They all are the Most High. Everything that he does, it manifests. He left us this book for us to read, for whoever got the understanding of it, allow him to be blessed and edify others on it and warn others for it. And with that, I say all praises to the Most High. I hope somebody received the edification of the Feast of Dedication. And I pray that the Most High allows the planting of the seeds of the mindsets that I've given him for allowed to be an increase in somebody else's mind that can pass it along and make that a domino effect. With that, I'll praise in the Most High. Shalom.